guys. Today, for our final reading lesson of the week, we will be using the stories that we've talked about together to figure out theme. Now, theme is something that we have briefly talked about, but we're really going to expand on it this week and probably next week as well. So let's talk about what theme is and also what theme is not. All right, so we learned about main idea. We went really in depth with main idea in class. And we learned that main idea is a sentence, a complete sentence that says what the story is mainly about. Okay? Main idea is not the same as theme. This tells what it's mostly about. Theme tells you what lesson the author wants you to know. These are two different things. So let me show you some examples with some books. All right, normally when we talk about main idea, we're talking about nonfiction. Okay, we most of the time don't ask for the main idea of a fiction book. So let me show you some examples. This is a nonfiction book that I had in my library. It's called I Am Helen Keller. If I were to write the main idea of this book, it would be Helen Keller was a person who was blind and deaf. That would be the main idea of the story. Okay, that's a nonfiction main idea. Here's another nonfiction book that I have. It's called Welcome to China. The main idea of this would be China is an incredible country. It even says the main idea on the back. But that would be the main idea of it. That's what this is mostly about. Nonfiction books don't have themes. They don't have themes. Now, let's look at some fiction books. This is a book that you may or may not have read. Maybe you've read books like it, but it's called The Pigeon Needs a Bath. I could find the main idea of this. It's a fiction book, and I could say the main idea of this is a pigeon refuses to take a bath until it gets too dirty. That'd be the main idea. But the theme, the lesson that the author is trying to teach me, it would be like, not that, I wouldn't say the lesson of the story is the pigeon needs to take a bath. I can't use that in my everyday life. I need a lesson from a story that I could use in everyday life. That's what theme is. So the theme of this book might be listen to your elders, or it might be listen to the people that are trying to help you. Do you see how I didn't use the word pigeon in any of this? I'm not talking about specific characters when I'm saying the theme. I'm talking about something that was really touched on in this book that I could use in real life. Here's another fictional story. Dragons Love Tacos. Now this is Dragons Love Tacos too, but maybe you've read the regular Dragons Love Tacos. If I were to put the main idea of this, to just kind of give you a sentence of what it's about, dragons eat tacos and then like set the whole place on fire because it's too spicy. That would be the main idea of it. Now, the theme is not that dragons should not eat tacos. Okay? That is not a lesson that I could use in everyday life. For this book, Dragons Love Tacos or Dragons Love Tacos 2, I need to think of how could what happened with the dragons burning down a house because they ate tacos, how could that apply to a lesson that I could use in my everyday life? I cannot use the lesson dragons should not eat tacos in my everyday life. A lesson that I could use out of this book would be careful. Be mindful, because they're not careful when they're reading or when they're eating the tacos. They just kind of get too excited and jump ahead of themselves. So I could say something about that. Themes are lessons that we've been learning about for forever. It's lessons like don't be greedy, or lessons like beauty is on the inside, not the outside, meaning people are really beautiful based on how they treat others, not on how they look on the outside. Themes are things that our parents have been teaching us since we were born, that are not specific to a story. We do not want themes to be specific. We want them to be broad. Specific talks about a little thing. When I say the word broad, I mean that it could have to do with a lot of different things. Broad means like big. Okay, it encompasses a lot within it. So we have looked at this type of chart before. This is our character change chart. And we used this when we were tracking characters together. Now, we're going to use this to help us find theme. And the reason why we're coming back to this chart is because now that you know about the plot of a story and about how a story has a rising action and then a climax and then a falling action, that is really going to help you to find the character change. We talked about how in order for a climax to happen, there has to be some big turning point. A climax is a turning point. A climax is the moment when the main character or characters change in a big way, and that leads to the solution. So if you know the climax, then you know this character change. So let's look at my story. Let me pause it. Oh. If you take away the otter was the story that we read. And we said the climax, the thing that happened right before the solution was people became worried that otters could disappear forever. Okay, so that was the thing that changed. If I were, let's say I wanted to plot the character change of the people. So it never really gives names. It just says people. People were the ones who were not taking care of the otters. At the beginning of the story, those people were they were taking too much otter fur. And then something changed. By the end of the story, or what changed right at that climax was they realized at the end of the story, they did not take too much otter fur. So at the beginning of the story, they were. At the end of the story, they were not. Notice how these are opposite. If it's a character change, these should have to do with the same sort of thing, but they should be very different from each other. They should be the opposite of each other. Now, we talked about what happened to make that change. At the beginning, they were taking too much otter fur. At the end, they did not take too much otter fur. What happened? Well, look, it says, why did he change? What caused the change? What did he realize? How is he a better person? These sentences are just kind of here to help us kind of think about what that climax was. All this has to do with the climax. What made this change? Well, again, the climax of my story was they realized that otters could go extinct. So that is really going to help you find that theme. If you know the climax, if you know what caused the change, that's the climax. And that's going to help you not only fill in this chart, but also find the theme. So now let me use this to find the theme of the story. Now, some stories we read, the theme is super obvious. Others, it maybe isn't as obvious. So this would be a story that I would say is kind of in the middle. So something that I think of that helps me to decide what a theme is of a story is I think to myself, okay, what does the author want me to learn? What does the author believe? I don't have to agree with it. Now, most of the time, if you have a theme, it's something that pretty much everyone would agree with, right? Like if the theme were don't be greedy, I would say pretty much everyone would agree, like, let's not be greedy, right? But keep in mind, whatever theme you have, you don't personally have to believe in it. It's fine. But what does the author want you to believe? What does the author believe? So I think of this little sentence starter here. The author believes that something. Now, I'm going to use the sentence starter to help me figure out the theme, and then I'm going to take it away because themes don't typically start with this kind of thing. We want our theme to be as broad as possible. So I'm going to tape this on my board over here. I'm going to first erase this, and I'll tape this on here to kind of help my thinking, and then I'll take it away. It says the author believes that. Now, I'm looking at this climax. We filled these out for a reason, or I filled mine out for a reason. I need to use it to help me find what the author wants me to learn. At the beginning, they were taking too much out of her. At the end, they did not take too much out of her because they realized that otters could go extinct. I'm going to use that climax to then help me find the theme. Now, themes will typically begin with a sentence starter like this. People should. So when you write your theme for the story, I want for you to make sure that it starts with people should. If at first you want to write the author believes that, that's fine. Just make sure you take it away by the end, okay? You need to write down people should. Now, there was that big moment where they realized that they could go extinct. They learned that they were hurting the environment. So for me, what my theme is going to say is people should take care of the environment. Now, if you were writing that sentence, it might look a little bit different for you, and that's okay. We can come up with different themes. It's okay. We're not all going to have, it's not all necessarily going to be one specific answer, but whatever theme you put, it needs to have to do with that climax. Really, when it comes down to it, the themes that we pick should be very, very similar if we're all looking at the climax of a story. So we use that character change that happens in the climax to help us figure out what the author is trying to teach us. Okay? So what I'm going to have you guys do is you have been reading on Sea Turtle Patrol, and you have a paper that looks like this. So what I want for you to do, now listen very carefully for what I want for you to do. I want for you to fill out this sheet. Now, your character that you're going to talk about, you can decide. That's going to be one of the main characters in that story. Who made the change and what caused that change? Look at the climax to help you. I'm not going to tell you what character to do, but look at the climax to decide what that character should be. Fill in this chart, and then on the Google form that is sent out, there is a question on there that asks, what is the theme of On Sea Turtle Patrol? You're going to use this to make a sentence like this. It needs to start with people should. Okay? So you fill out this, and then on the Google form, you answer that question about the theme of the story. All right. Please let us know if you have any questions. Best of luck.